says she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you lusting is the one you're loving?
I am so honored to have her here today, and hopefully we'll be hearing more from her because she is the baddest bitch in the room. That is the book, by the way. I would never call her a bitch to her face, but that's how she referred to herself, the baddest bitch in the room. The book is amazing. Let me welcome the equally amazing Sophia Chang is here. Hello.
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. Hey, Smiz. I'm so honored to be here, and it's so gracious of you to let me come and crash the party.
Girl, this is first of all, you can't crash a party. You are always invited. You can never crash a place that you are already invited to. So that's number one. Number two, ever since I met you, we are kindred spirits in a lot of different ways. But I watch how you move in the world, and it's inspiring because for many of us, we feel like we're lone wolves. I was just telling one of my producers, I was in a meeting yesterday, and it had to be like 8 men in a room and me, and I was like, it was weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not even like representation. It was black people, all black people. Yeah, and me, and I'm like, wow. At some point when we talk about diversity and inclusion and all of this, the world should look like the world. We should look like the world in all of the spaces of power.
Absolutely. And I love what you were saying earlier about community. And I agree with everything that all of your experts have said, because I've listened to experts as well talking about how building community is literally a primal need. And being the first and only in a room, how many times has that been the case for you, Karen Hunter? So many times. And yeah, I think I've had a range of responses to that, from insecurity to fear to imposter syndrome when I was much younger. But I think as I've gotten older, it's become clear to me that for whatever level of discomfort I might experience, and it's usually fleeting at this point in my life. Obviously, I call myself the baddest bitch in the room. It is always way compensated for and counterbalanced by the notion, I'm sure this is true for you too, that I'm going to make it easier for the next person who looks like me. I mean, that's what we do, right? I was the first Asian woman in hip hop, and I didn't ever think about it in that kind of framing. I didn't think about it until much later, and until people came up to me, younger Asian folks, who said, "Thank you, Sophia. I couldn't have done it without you." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I just kind of threw myself in there. And I think when you look at your storied career and all of the different rooms and disciplines and industries that you've inhabited, and all the different roles within those rooms and disciplines and industries, that's foraging. I mean, that's like blazing trails. And I love the feeling that what you and I do really does make the path easier for those behind us. I didn't kick and punch my way into doors. I'm a martial artist, so I'm going to use that kind of analogy. I didn't kick and punch my way into doors to let them slide shut behind me. Oh, just made it, right? No, you do that because you want to keep that bitch open to bring other people in. It's that line from Mobb Deep from the Shook Ones remix. Once I get on, I'm gonna put on all my people. Like, that's what we're doing here. And whether we're doing it explicitly, like you do, these people, I'd like to create this umbrella called Urban View at SiriusXM, right? And I would like to invite these people to actually have a show, or whether you do it implicitly. And there are many, many people, Karen, that you have been a model for that you'll never know. You'll never know. Your impact has been that broad. And this is why I really believe representation matters. I say it all the time. Representation matters, representation matters, representation matters. Because there are other women who are looking to you that are going, okay, wow, I never imagined that this was something that was possible. And simply by your presence, you open some folks' imaginations to the possibility of what they could be. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
I received that. And I thank you, Sophia Chang, as I'm thinking about unlock her potential. And we're going to get into that. I think about you I think about just for those of us who don't see limits, because I can never not imagine myself in a room. I always talk about growing up. I didn't see myself. I'm looking at Pippi Longstocking. I was like, all right, I guess I could be on my own, sailing ships and not having parents. I imagine what would that look like to not have a parent and be out there, conquering. Pippi Longstocking was my hero growing up with her wayward braids. And I think about, those things is like it's endless, the possibilities. So how do you give someone no limits, right? How do you teach someone that the only limitations we have are the ones we put on ourselves? Because what I'm learning, the rooms will fold and bend to your will. You just got to be there. You got to be in those rooms knowing you're supposed to, because that imposter syndrome will kill you. It will take you out of here. It will make you fail miserably if you come into a space and you don't think you belong, or no one can make you feel that way though. You have to buy into it.
I think that all of us, since we were children growing up in America, we have internalized so many terrible things, so many prejudices and hatreds. It's just what happens growing up in any culture is you're going to internalize the dominant culture's messaging. It's virtually impossible not to. All of the phobias, right, and all of the isms. And like you said, so much happens here between the ears. And so the exercise of being the baddest bitch in the room, it's not literally, I'm the baddest bitch in the room and there are 150 other of you and you can't possibly be. That's actually not what it's about. And although it's grammatically incorrect, because baddest, clearly it ends in EST, it's a superlative, which means only one can exist. It's not about that. It's about being so good in yourself that you can move through a space feeling like you're the baddest bitch in the room. I was a yellow girl growing up in a white world who wanted to be white. There was nothing. I was born in 1965. I came of age in the 70s. There was nothing at that time. Pippi Longstockings, all of the shows we watched, the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family,
Right,
and
right.
all of those shows, nothing ever told us otherwise. So when people say, well, how could you want to be white? I always retort, how could I not? I'm 10. The only thing I see of the only representation I see is whiteness. Whiteness is power. It is beauty. It is allure. It is intelligence. It is all of those things. And so then it's about, and I didn't have any of this framing or this vernacular, obviously, but I knew, okay, I'm getting called a chink, a Jap, and a kook. I know I'm other. I know that phenotypically I am other. So now I have to figure out how am I going to combat that? And I think our mission, Karen, as people who have accomplished whatever we've accomplished, is to try to guide folks to a place where they can first imagine. It so much is about imagination. When I wrote my memoir, my brother, Sophia Chang, genius, said, what you are trying to do with your book, Sophia, you are simply trying to ask the world to imagine that you exist. And he's right. It wasn't a popularity contest. It wasn't a, hey, look at me, everybody like me and elect me class president and prom queen. I don't care about that. What I demand is that you acknowledge me. You don't have to like me. You don't have to think I'm sexy. You don't have to ask me on a date. You don't have to say that she should run for office. I simply want you to look at me as a middle-aged woman careening through middle age, almost 60, and say, oh, she exists. Or look at somebody like Karen Hunter in the industry of publishing, which when you got in was even whiter. Sure, there were women, but that's a white industry. And it's still a white industry. And the position that you held there and the fact that you had the power that you had, wow, we didn't imagine this. So, when I was doing interviews for my memoir, a wonderful South Asian and Indian comic, his name is Hari Kondabolu, he interviewed me and he said, Sophia, I wish I had known back then when I was a 13-year-old boy growing up in Queens, a South Asian kid, that at the center of all of the music that was shaping my adolescence, there was an Asian woman. And Karen, you know this, until my memoir, I was way in the cut.
Yep.
I scrubbed myself up with Google and all of that. And when I decided to step into the spotlight, into the arena and grab the mic, I never considered it gaining fame. I considered it abdicating my anonymity, because you pay a price for this. I'm not famous like that, but I'm not anonymous anymore. And why did I do it? Because I knew that by doing it, I would be of service. What you do every day, what you did with your publishing, what you do with your storytelling, what you do with your show, is you are of service. You're not here. It's the same thing. You're not here trying to say, oh God, aren't I the greatest? Aren't I the most beautiful? No, you're here giving other people space to tell stories. So for me, it's really about how can we help? For me, as you know, my unique focus is women of color. How can we help women of color imagine a different path other than what is so narrowly prescribed? So for me, as a child of Asian immigrants, as a first gen, right, immigrant, what was the path set out for me? Academia, right? A professional for sure, a white collar professional, doctor, lawyer, professor. And my parents, God bless them, allowed me to imagine something different. But for many, 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 many people, for all of the systems and institutions, culture, family, all of those external factors, right? We're not even granted the grace to imagine. And what you have done and continue to do is you allow other women of color to look and go, oh, there's something else. That's important.
There's always something else. Sophia Chang is here. Before we get into unlock her potential as well, I wanted to spend a little time. And first of all, thank you. It's kind of, people cringe now with labels and titles. I'm navigating something that I didn't imagine. This generation, and I didn't think I would ever use those words. They're different. Like, this is the first semester I'm back in the classroom, and I'm like, I don't know if I could stay here. It's like, I don't know if I can stay, because I'm navigating. This is triggering for me. And we're talking about people who want to be in media and journalism. I'm not watching that because it goes against my values. And I'm like, then how do we and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like you got to kind of digest everything so that you can determine whether or not something is good and bad. Just as you say, as you're saying, people of color, I know someone's out there is like, there are no people of color. What is people of color? They're mad at the term. Oh, we're not Black, we're African. We're not African. It's like we want to fight over every little damn thing instead of saying, you know what the hell we mean. I misspoke yesterday. I said basketball instead of football. Somebody's like, you didn't say the right word. And I'm like, if you're that focused on a misspeak, which you know damn well it was a misspeak, what are we doing here? How do we ever get together? So I just wanted to, when you say people of color, you mean people who are marginalized. You mean all of that. And it's just an easy way to categorize folk. But talk a little bit about what you are doing, why you're doing it, and what you hope to happen from starting this amazing program.
So, Unlock Her Potential. I founded this program in June of 2020. For those of you that were in New York City, you will know that we were literally scared to death. You remember this, Karen. We were literally scared to death. We didn't go out our doors. We ordered all of our groceries online. Karen Hunter was one of the first people I called, and she didn't hesitate to say yes. Unlock Her Potential is a program that provides free mentorship for women of color, and that is the broad spectrum of folks who identify as women, that if for 18 years and older in the United States, including Puerto Rico. The vast majority of our mentors are in the field of media, television, film, music, journalism, and publishing. And then we have some other industries like STEM and fine art and culinary. My idea with the program, Karen, it's everything that I do has a twofold purpose, right? Again, I'm a fighter, so it's a right hook and it's a left hook. So my memoir, here's the story. Wow, look, she's got a crazy story. Absolutely, I have a crazy story. But in talking about my memoir, I get to address larger, broader issues. Unlock Her Potential. So each year, going into 2024, we have 143 mentors. So 143 mentors will be impacted because the mentors are absolutely graced, right? And they learn from the program, and we will have 143 mentees, roughly. So just under 300 people will be impacted next year. And that's a good number. That is a robust number. What I want to do additionally is be able to talk about the importance of mentoring women of color. Why women of color? Look, I am absolutely not saying that other people don't deserve to be mentored. Everybody deserves to be mentored. However, I am a woman of color who has been mentored for 36 years by Michael Austin, my mentor. And I am very, very clear on the profound impact he has had on my life. Why do I think we should mentor women of color? Well, I'm probably biased being one. My personal experience from working with women of color, and these are obviously broad generalizations. We are brilliant. We are creative. We are resourceful. We are industrious. We are amazing team players. We are fantastic managers. We are gracious and magnanimous and benevolent leaders. And we are problem solvers. And when you put all of these things together, I simply don't know how you have a team that doesn't look more diverse in all the ways that you talk about, right? Whether it's ability, whether it's on the gender spectrum, whether it is sexuality, whether it is race, whether it is body size and type and complexion and everything. So my focus is women of color because of my personal direct experience with it, because most of my friends are women of color, very few of us, all of them are so accomplished, and virtually none of them have been mentored. So I'm trying to formalize this process of mentoring, but I'm also trying to get out the message to everybody. Mentor women of color. I think that if you are a person, I don't care what gender, what race, who has the experience, the knowledge, and the wisdom to mentor, and you don't, I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
SiriusXM.
You're a fucking asshole. Right? You're a fucking asshole. You're like a selfish asshole. You didn't fucking get there on your own. Nobody gets there on their own. Nobody pops up and they're suddenly, I'm the senior VP. I'm the this, I'm the that. Somebody helped you on your path. So help people. And again, my more narrow focus as we come down the funnel of folks to be mentored are women of color. And I'll tell you, one of the beauties of the program, Karen, and you probably experienced this yourself, was so many of our mentees, they're grateful just to be chosen. Never mind getting into the program. Never mind, I get to spend 12 hours in this year talking to Karen Hunter, who has swam in all of these pools, who has had such an amazing, powerful presence in all these different industries. Oh, who gets that kind of access? Right? So that's what we present. But just the simple fact, I had so many mentors tell me that the first time they speak to their mentees are crying because they say, I can't believe you chose me. I can't believe you chose me. And it's a competitive program. There's no question. But that really speaks to me, to the experience that those of us who are women of color, we so rarely feel chosen. I mean, how many women of color are out there? Raise your hand if you're made to feel lucky for the job you have. Oh, Sophia, you're so lucky. I felt that way. There's no question. That's the corporate mindfuck, right? Meaning, Sophia, you're so lucky to have your job. You should do whatever it takes to keep this job. And if you want to go, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, because there are 5,000 other the rest of you standing there. My attorney, Marcy Cleary, woman of color, she says, Sophia Chang, we are not taking happy to be here money. We're not taking happy to be here money. And so what we're trying to do is impact directly the lives of the mentors and the mentees, and then push this broader narrative. And I know I've directed discourse. I have no doubt about it. When I founded Unlock the Potential, if you Google mentorship for women of color, the hits that came up, they weren't that plentiful. Now it's more. And I know that we had a direct impact on that. The only impact, of course not. The world is an ecosystem. There's a zeitgeist. There are words that get thrown out there and people pick them up. My hope is that everybody will start thinking about mentoring women of color. And the way that DEI and CSR is corporate social responsibility, right? DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion, are de rigueur at every corporation in this country. I want MWC, mentorship for women of color, to be something that people take on as well. Like, oh, maybe we should start a mentorship program for women of color, because we are some of the most disenfranchised. We are some of the most under-resourced, of all folks. And so that's what we're trying to do with the program. Apply now. Applications extended until Saturday.
Okay, and it's unlockherpotential.com, and it is for women. And if you are a man and you think that there should be something for men, start it.
Do it.
This is it. Just do it. I mean, if there's a need, fill it. Sophia's leaning into her particular gifts and talents, and this is the purpose of being a human being, is you're not supposed to be all things to all people. You're supposed to be all things to yourself. So be true to yourself and do the things that serve you so that you can serve others, right? With your unique skills and abilities. Unlockherpotential.com. What's powerful for me is that we live in a corporate world right now. We're watching this writer strike, this actor strike, which I think these corporate heads are not going to capitulate, much the way the Montgomery bus boycott bankrupted the bus company, because power never gives up power. They're not going to give up power. They're not going to kneel. They're not going to bend. So it's going to be in for a long journey. And I hope these actors and writers are prepared for what's coming. That said, we, the people who bolster these streaming outlets and these houses of entertainment, we also need to bear responsibility, right? Because it's not just about the actors and the writers. It's a microcosm of all of us working in corporate America. And we're the ones that make the damn thing go, right? And we're the ones that get the least amount of money. We get a tenth of what the people at the top get. And it is over and over. And the goal is for us to never look around to see, which is why we're discouraged from talking about salaries. We're discouraged from talking about what it is that you do versus what it is that I do. It's important to have mentors because people have gone through some things. I feel like they want to close the door behind them because they want everyone to suffer what they suffer. But no, that can't be the way. You got to make it easier for the next. But appreciate that. So talk about, because we were talking, my mentee was a woman of a certain age with children, who is, now doing some fantastic things. Shout out to you, Amber. We were talking, you and I, about, because I remember my father went back into the workplace after 50, and he, had to dye his hair because he said, this world is cruel to people of a certain age. You can't be out here with gray hair. And, I thought about that, even especially for women. There's a marketplace of tech that, kind of they're not welcoming in the people who have wisdom. We may not all have those tech experiences, but we have wisdom that can help make your tech so much more well-rounded. The corporations check boxes with diversity. They don't think about the culture that they are, not welcoming as a result of, we got a Black, we got an Asian, we have a woman, we have these things, but it's the culture that makes a thing work. It's not these thin slices of people. So you need folk of a certain age, and not to treat them like they're old because they're in these spaces, but that they're bringing a life experience, whether it's parenthood, grandparenthood, or lived experiences. It's crazy that we live in a world like this. So I'm grateful that your mentorship is not about the kids in college. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up that point. So it is free mentorship for women of color 18 and older. We all talked about what the floor was. Again, you could absolutely be 12 years old and deserve a mentor. We decided that it would be 18 because you will have, many of you finished high school. Why is there not a ceiling to the age? Because I'm almost 60 and I'm still being mentored. We are also in an economy, we are in a global market that folks will have more than one job during their lifetimes. My father, God rest his soul, had one job. He was born in 1931, right? It's a very, very different world these days. And if you Google mentorship programs, the vast majority are for young people, college age people, high school age people. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But for us, for me, I am battling racism. I am battling sexism. And for decades now, I've been battling ageism. So if we take the intersectional view, right, and all of the ways that those isms oppress us and erase us. I mean, there are how many people, to the point of your father, and women, and then women of color, are just devalued and pushed to the side and made invisible. So it's really important to me to tell women, you deserve mentors at every stage of your life. I've had many comings of age in my life. Yeah, the first one might have been when I was 12, but I had another one when I was 50 when I decided to write my memoir. I absolutely needed guidance in that place. How many women do we all know, raise your hand, who at 40, let's say, had kids in their 30s, spent that whole decade, because you kind of have to, devoted to your family, making sure that the diapers were changed, making sure that they got into the right preschools and lower schools and went to soccer and all that kind of stuff. And you took care of the husband and all of that. And then you wake up at 40, and then these women wake up at 40 and they're like, wow, I'm not sure who I am anymore outside of being a mother and a wife. What if I want to do something else now? Karen, I want to go back into the workforce, and maybe I want to imagine myself as a woman who isn't doing what she did before. I was a corporate lawyer and I enjoyed it enough, but that's not really what gets me excited anymore. What impassions me is, I love the idea of writing screenplays. It's a leap and it's a journey, but you know what? If you can imagine it, it gets closer. And then if you have a mentor who can help you get so much closer. I know so many women, Karen, who at 40 feel like they've given up. My marriage is good enough. My job is good enough. And there's nothing wrong with settling. To each their own. What is important to me is that we offer folks more possibilities. You know, I say this all the time. I quote my very smart friend, Julius Ona. He says, I believe every person deserves access to the full spectrum of humanity. So if what you want access to is the life that I described, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm really happy, Sophia. I'm a housewife. I have 3 children. I'm never going to go back to work. Yeah, that's great. We need all different sorts of folks. What I have a problem, right, is the notion that you can only be this. Okay, woman, 43, 44, 53, 54. We're actually not even thinking about you anymore. Especially, we are youth obsessed. And I do think that social media, absolutely, in particular Instagram, because it's so photo based, right? It's so image based, has exacerbated ageism, and that everybody has to look young. And it's always more acute for women. Don't tell me otherwise. Patriarchy makes it such that we have to look younger. That's why everybody gets fillers and Botox and all that. And I don't denigrate those folks at all. It's never about the player, it's about the game. It's never about the player, it's the game. What is the game in this scenario? It is patriarchy. And what is the game that I am? What is the game, the machine against which I rage every day? Racism, sexism, and ageism. And this is what we address specifically with Unlock of Potential. We had a woman who applied last year who was 71. 71. That means there is a 71-year-old woman of color out there who learned about our program and said, I am seen. And this program tells me whether or not she was chosen, that's not the point. The fact is that she went to our website and she submitted she took the time to submit an application, and she said, I am worthy. That, when I go to sleep at night, that keeps me warm.
What does she want to, which field does she want to be mentored in?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I would have to go back and look. My guess is because we have so many mentors in media, it was probably in that, but I will look and I will let you know. But I remember that I looked at that and it made me so proud. I was so proud, Karen. You know, the average age of our mentee, the folks that apply, I'm pretty sure it's in their 30s and 40s. And again, you think women at 40 are going, I'm going to get a mentor? No. Here's the thing about women of color and mentorship, and this is just anecdotal research. This is just me talking to my friends. Most of us have not been mentored. I have. Most of my friends have not, number one. Number two, most women of color, it doesn't even occur to them that this is a possibility. And this goes back to our conversation about imagination. Oh my God. I mean, I know what a mentor is, but I never thought that I could have a mentor. So whether or not they apply for Unlock of Potential, it's not about that. It's just thinking, wait a minute, actually, I know what a mentor is. I know that folks get mentored. I've seen the results of it, and I deserve it too. And again, it's not charity. It's not charity. It's not a fucking bone you throw. No, you go, I'm going to mentor a woman of color. Ooh, is she ingenious? I mean, the stories that have come back to us have been so beautiful. Russell Peters, he's an Indian Canadian comic, genius, hilarious. His mentee last year, 55-year-old Japanese woman, speaks with an accent. And why do I bring that up? Because she wanted to be a stand-up comedian. A 55-year-old Japanese immigrant who speaks with an accent. Well, you know that Asian accents are not seen as sophisticated like a fucking French or a British accent, right? I heard my parents get mocked when I was a child. He chooses her. He introduces her to everybody. And mentors aren't required to do that, but that's just his magnanimity. She sent me an email last month and she said, Sophia, I booked so many gigs. I am now a professional stand-up comedian at 55, Karen. Imagine.
Wow.
She's a mother. She's got 2 kids. She has a whole ass family. And she's out there on stage doing shows. That's the power of unlocking potential. That's the power of somebody like Russell Peters saying, you know what, Sophia? Yeah, I'll give somebody 12 hours. I will invite that person to my show. I will introduce them to bookers. I will tell them how to dig deeper for material and get better jokes and do all of that stuff. And her life has been transformed. Mentorship can have transformative power.
I am on the site right now. I think I need to be mentored in a different area.
Publishing.
So, no, I don't need to be mentored.
Oh,
publishing.
mentored.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a mentor. Okay. Why not? Why not?
Are you kidding?
866 yeah, 866-801-8255. Because the reality is, and this is something I teach my students, 90% of the things that happen to you are through relationship, which is why it is super important. I look at, the fraternities and sororities, a lot of engagement happens there, jobs and businesses are fomented, the links, the Masons, you go to Harvard because of the relationships, you go to Stanford because of the relationships, not because you're getting a superior education. It's the connection to the people who are going to put you in these spaces. And so I tell my students, when you get to a place, find out where the power is and make friends with the power. You not transactionally, but make true friendships at your workplace. And even in school, the people that you're with, they should be people who are going in a similar direction, because as everyone rises, everyone ends up, I look over, Stephen A was, sat in the seat that I was sitting in at the Daily News, and we've still, kept in contact. But look at where he is, where I am, where, and we may collaborate, maybe we won't, maybe we're in different, time zones. I don't know, but there's a connection there, right? And so this is what that's all about. And if you're in a field that you're not familiar with, how do you get familiar? Through people. So this, more than anything, not just about being mentored, it's about engaging with folk who you're not normally going to engage with. So I think this is powerful. So walk us through. So somebody listening right now, they're on their second career. Maybe they were a school teacher and they're like, or a nurse, or maybe they were driving a bus, or they're driving a truck. They're a trucker. And they're looking to do a change in their career, because we have a lot of folk in those spaces, right? They go on the site, pick a mentor first, because I picked a particular mentor because I see you got Jamel Hill, you got everybody in that Danielle Belton this year. I'm looking at your publishing. I'm like, okay, Sophia brought out the big guns of TV. I'm like, okay, this is all of the things. Pick your mentor first. How would you suggest people do this?
Thank you for asking. You pick your mentor. So the rigor of the program begins with the application process. I'm not a dating site. I'm not, okay, everybody just throw your hats in. And I think that John would be great with Jean. And I think so-and-so. We're not doing that. I have neither the desire nor the bandwidth nor the resources to do that. You have to choose your mentor. We have 143 mentors. And how does it start? Because people ask this question often. How do I choose a mentor? You do the research. You go onto our website. You click on mentors and you see all of the different arenas, right? All of the different industries. And you go, I'm not interested in STEM, but I'm really interested in publishing, to your point, right? And then you go on to publishing and you realize that there are different jobs in publishing. Oh, I thought I wanted to be an author, but what does this person do? What does an editor actually do in publishing? A lot of people don't know that. I wouldn't have known that years ago. Oh, an editor is the person at publishing who actually seeks out and buys the books, right? Meets with the authors, reads the proposals. I think this is really interesting. And so our mentees and our applicants, Karen, are in a range of stages of their career. Some of them are mid-career. Some of them are even senior. Some of them are just starting out. Some of them are fresh out of college. And the mentors choose how they want to choose. I've had mentors say to me, I want someone young so I could really help them navigate the beginnings of their career. And I've had other folks say, I would like to mentor somebody who is mid-career because this is kind of where it was most impactful for me. So it's very personal to the mentor and who it is that they want to choose. And it could change from year to year. It just depends on how those applications strike them. So the application, you'll answer very basic demographic information, first name, last name, address, email, and stuff like that. And then you're asked 3 questions. And these are the key questions. And it's the only thing I look at, actually. Question number 1, what are your short-term and long-term goals? Question number 2, why is this mentor the best fit for you and vice versa? Question number 3, what are the 3 to 5 topics or issues that you would like to discuss with your mentor? Now, what that means is that you actually have to go through that process. Well, shit, what are my short-term and long-term goals? I haven't thought about that in a long time. And I'm a writer. So I really believe that putting these things down in writing, typing, black and white, text, words, letters, forces you to really assess, okay, well, these are my short-term and long-term goals. And why is this mentor the best fit for you and vice versa? You have to think about that. That's the most important question to me. Sophia Chang is a mentor. Number 2, why this mentor is the best fit for you and vice versa. And third question is, what are the 3 to 5 topics or issues that you would like to discuss with your mentor? Because that helps us as mentors get a sense of, okay, what are the potential challenges or obstacles or queries that you have that you would like to talk about? Because maybe somebody lists things, Karen, that I'm actually not qualified to talk about, right? Or they list something and I go, holy cow, that is completely something that resonates with me. And I absolutely want to dive in there. So we made those questions as brief as possible, but they really are illustrative of who the person is. And that's how most of us make our decision, is based on that.
I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you love's thing